Being an age-friendly business can create quite a big impact on the bottom line of any business. But what does it mean to be an age-friendly business? Well, it means that you are catering to the new consumer majority, which is the segment of our population that holds the most money in our society today, people over the age of 40.
Welcome to This is Getting Old, moving towards an age-friendly world. I'm Dr. MelissaBPhd, and I am a nurse and a nurse practitioner with over 25 years of experience caring for older adults and their families. Before we dive into today's topic, I wanted to share a few of the different ways that you can connect with me. You can go to my website, MelissaBPhd.com, and sign up to be an HYSU Insider for free. And there you'll find some of the downloads that I've mentioned all in one place. And if you become an HYSU MVP member, you will have an access to a digital hub of videos, courses, and resources that I've organized by subtopic, and which makes it even easier to find information that you're looking for. And I also host a monthly live Q&A webinar for my MVP members, and they have access to all of the handouts that I've ever created. So you can also become a member on YouTube, and depending on what your level of membership is, you'll get early access to my weekly episodes. You can join me for a monthly live Q&A webinar, or you can tune in weekly for a live stream on Tuesdays at 5. So now let's talk about age-friendly businesses. So as we age, there are normal changes with aging that change things for us, most notably reading receipts these days, particularly for me and my friends. But there are other changes that some people develop that aren't normal aging, but they can create a situation of disability. And while businesses in the U.S. have to be ADA compliant or compliant with the American Disabilities Act, there are a few other things to think about to make any business age and disability friendly, because aging does not necessarily equate to disability. Let me say that again. Aging does not necessarily equate to disability. But an older adult may have some changes in their vision and their hearing that make communication more difficult, or as a caregiver of a person living with dementia, you may have to look for environments that are also dementia friendly. So today I'm going to review 4 major areas that businesses should consider to be disability, age, and dementia friendly, from the physical facility of the business, both the brick and mortar facility, as well as the online side of the business, personnel and staff training considerations, how to develop and showcase products and services for people of all ages, and a few tips on effective marketing for this group. And this is not an all-encompassing list of tips, but it is a great start for anyone who wishes to serve the greatest possible audience to improve their bottom line. So now let's talk about the built environment. So universal design plays a pivotal role in fostering age-friendly communities for older adults by supporting accessible, inclusive, and usable environments that allow people of all ages and abilities to participate fully in community life. So by creating environments that can be used effectively by everyone, regardless of physical, sensory, or cognitive limitations, that means that everyone can engage in the social, interpersonal relationships, enjoy their family, and participate in activities in a more meaningful and convenient way. So for your physical building, here are the things that you should think through. Signs. All signs should be clearly displayed with basic bold font with adequate contrast between the letters and the background. You want to make sure that your signs do not have abstract icons or images, and you want to be sure that you have placed these signs at eye level and at places where critical decisions have to be made. And I'll share an example after I go through this list of one that I have seen recently and got some video for this episode. And then also making sure that not only that signs point people to the bathroom and anywhere else they might need to go, but also as they're leaving, making sure that there are signs that say way out for easier navigation. I know in my doctor's offices, it's so nice to be able to look up and it says, this is the way out, or the back to, exit to the lobby here. So these signs are helpful, again, for people of all ages. For lighting, making sure that your entrances and your exits are well lit, and also making sure that you use natural light as much as possible. And the reason for that is it just reduces glare, which can impede somebody's ability to see well. So we're going to talk about flooring next, but first tip there is to avoid glare. Another thing with lighting is to have small flashlights for reading, and maybe even having magnifying glasses available to read paper menus, receipts, and even product labels. You can also use iPads or have QR codes on menus that allow you to increase or decrease the font size, but also offer a zoom in and out capability. When it comes to flooring, making sure that you are keeping glare and reflection to a minimum on all floors is important, but also avoiding boldly patterned carpets. And that's just because it changes somebody's ability to for depth perception. So if it's a bold pattern, it's hard to versus a solid pattern. If you're walking across a solid carpet, you know it's solid and things are good. But if there's some weird dark circle in the middle of your carpet, a person could interpret that as like a cliff, and they might stop walking or not understand their environment. So no glare, plain carpets. We also want to make sure that your stairs have a very high contrast, which means if you have an all white staircase and you're looking down it, you can't tell where the stairs start and stop. One way to fix that would be to put black trim at the edge of each step so that you can tell from looking down. If you're above at the top of the staircase and you're looking down, you can tell where those stairs start and stop. We also want to keep our floor surfaces as flush as possible. And this is just to help avoid falls, trips, but also will help make sure that walkers and wheelchairs don't get stuck. And if you can have a parking area inside near the table that the person will sit at, if possible, that's great. Or have designated mobility aids and scooters within your business. So I know a lot of grocery stores, department stores offer scooters that people can use once they get into the building. Next thing is doors. So make sure that the sign is on the door that it refers to, so not kind of across the hall from it. And then making sure that your glass doors are clearly marked, because nothing is worse than watching somebody crash into a glass door. You also want to make sure that the signs for your toilets and your exits are clear. And again, we talked about making sure those signs are clear, but it can be even on the back of a door. So when I was talking about it before, I meant like on the wall when you're kind of directing people. But even having a sign on the back of the door that just says exit can be helpful if somebody gets disoriented or confused. You also want to make sure that the doors are lightweight and they're easy to open, or you need to have the handicap access opening capability, which means if it's a super heavy door, they can press a button, voila, it will open. And then in thinking through seating, making sure that seats are high enough that someone can sit to stand easily, but then also making sure that you have a variety of seating, because some people do better in like a tabletop type of chair height compared to a bar height chair. So having that variety is important. And then also make sure that your seats are recognizable. So this is not the place for abstract art benches. We want people to recognize that that's a place they can sit down if they need to. And then from the overall environment, we want to make sure that you're keeping your overhead and your background noise below conversational level. And if you need to, you can add furniture or soundboards to the walls to absorb excess sound and reduce the echo. I was recently in a restaurant with my parents and another set of grandparents for just a celebration with my kids, and the overhead music was so loud with 4 older adults there that we couldn't hear each other. Well, we could hear people talking, but it was very clear that one set of the grandparents was having more difficulty understanding what we were saying. And after 3 times of asking the restaurant to please turn down the music, they finally did. And then everybody could hear what was going on. And then, just to share another example of a restaurant that I've been recently that came across as age friendly, except that in order to get to the bathroom, you had to go down the stairs. So in retrospect, that could be a problem as well. But as you look down the staircase, it was very clear that the stairs had been marked so that you could tell where the steps started and stopped. And when you got to the bottom of the staircase, there was a sign right there that said bathrooms and had your little arrow to go to the right. And then the signs on the bathroom doors, they had one that was more abstract, but they also had the standard women's bathroom signage. And it's okay if it's gender neutral, it's not, but it was the standard sign that we typically are used to seeing. The only recommendation I had for this business was as I was leaving, they could have had a sign that said exit this way. But if you look to the right, there was like this boiler room looking thing. And if you look to the left, there was a set of stairs. So that was a pretty easy way to know which way to go out. But a sign saying way out would have been helpful. So now let's talk about personnel and staff considerations. So providing excellent and respectful customer service ensures that your customers will come back, but it also increases the chances that you're going to get a word of mouth referral. So if you have a staff member that can act as a greeter and offer assistance, that's important, but not to assume. They should be offering that assistance to everyone and not just assuming because the person's older that they need assistance. And if the assistance is declined, that's totally fine as well. But you also need to train your staff to assist customers with access and functional needs. So this can be anything from being able to reach shelved items, and you don't even have to be disabled. There are a lot of people I see in the grocery store that are much shorter than me, and I'm the one that gets asked if I can reach something that's high up on the shelf. So if the product placement is also very important to make sure that your most commonly used or purchase products are easily accessible. But also make sure that you're speaking clearly to the person. And I mentioned earlier that a lot of older adults may have hearing loss, and it's typically high frequency hearing loss, which means if you have a higher pitched voice, and they may not be able to hear you. So you need to slow down, lower your voice, and speak clearly to the person. And then they're a lot more likely to be able to hear you. And staff may also need to read labels or menus for people, just depending on what their ability level is. You also can offer employment training and opportunities to learn effective communication skills. But again, making sure that you're training staff to make eye contact and speak clearly is important. Making sure that you're actively seeking customer feedback is important, and maybe even giving people, kind of a guided comment card that they can put into a comment box. And then making sure that you're providing respectful customer service, both in person and on the phone. And so now let's talk about products and services. One of the ways to attract older adults into your establishment or into your business is to offer a discount program for older adults. Have recently seen a mobile phone company who's offering, deep discounts to people over the age of 55. And I'm like, that is really great. And they're probably going to have, a lot of business from that. So offering discount programs for older adults, even if it's one day a week or a certain period of time each afternoon, those things are important. Being sure that you advertise in media outlets or participate in community events that target not only older adults, but even intergenerational events, because you may have grandparents taking kids to a community event. And if you're there to serve older adults, that might be a great way to connect to them. You can also offer consumer education and training. So an information session about the products and services that you offer, or even an educational class about how to use a new product or a certain technology can attract older customers. You can also offer products that are tailored to older customers. So thinking through maybe offering small portions and making sure that you have large prep materials available. And then the last two tips here are to offer drop-off and delivery service, or to offer shopping by phone or shopping online. And then our last category is marketing. And I did want to let you know that we will include a link to a previous episode that I've done that's focused on marketing to the new consumer majority that has more information in there. But the biggest thing here is when you are creating marketing materials, to make sure that they are intergenerational. And the example that I shared in that previous episode was around the Chevrolet EV cars. And what they did is they had people of all ages, all genders, all racial and ethnic backgrounds. And every car group that was together, the one thing they were all doing was singing in the car. And that's because that is a experience that all generations can relate to. And so it's much easier for people to see themselves using your product or coming to your business when they can see themselves doing that. So I thought that was a really great example of an age-friendly commercial. So for print and websites, we want to be sure that we're providing easily accessible information. So we want to use large, clear font, so at least a 12 point with a good contrast. So if your receipt machine can bold, please do that. Not just for me, for anybody over the age of 40 who's experiencing presbyopia, which is a normal change of aging, which means it's going to happen to all of us. So also, you can offer easy text resize options for menus, brochures, and receipts. And again, using iPads, QR codes makes this a lot easier. And then being sure that your customer service phone number and that your contact information is easily found on your website. Critically important. Making sure your marketing materials are intergenerational. So again, identifying that common experience for the use of your product or service that will attract customers of all ages. So thank you for joining me today. Don't forget to go to my website, MelissaBPhd.com, and sign up to be an HYSU Insider or upgrade to being an MVP member. You can also become a podcast member on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on whatever platform you're joining me on today. If you have found this information helpful, please like it, leave a 5-star rating and a comment, or share it with someone that would also find it helpful. And until next time, be well.